Tensions between the United States and Venezuela have reached a boiling point. The U.S. has dispatched a formidable military strike force to the South American nation, signaling a dramatic escalation in the ongoing battle against drug trafficking. President Trump's administration is determined to dismantle the cartels that have plagued American communities with illegal substances like fentanyl and cocaine. But what does this mean for Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, who has long been a target of U.S. ire? The animosity between Trump and Maduro dates back to the former's first term. In 2020, Maduro and his associates were indicted for narco-terrorism, accused of conspiring to flood the U.S. with cocaine. The U.S. government has placed a staggering $50 million bounty on Maduro's head, a figure that rivals the reward once offered for Osama bin Laden. This is not just a political statement, it's a declaration of war against a regime that the U.S. views as a narco-terror cartel. As the U.S. military armada approaches, the stakes have never been higher. The flotilla includes 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, known for their versatility and advanced combat systems. These ships are equipped to handle a variety of missions, from air defense to deep strike capabilities. With their Aegis combat system, they can track hundreds of targets simultaneously, making them a formidable presence in any conflict. But what happens when these warships come face to face with Maduro's forces? Reports indicate that around 4,000 Marines and sailors are en route to the region, accompanied by P-8 spy planes. This is not a mere show of force, it's a well-coordinated military operation poised to disrupt drug trafficking routes. White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt has made it clear, the Trump administration is prepared to use every element of American power to bring those responsible for the drug crisis to justice. But will this show of strength intimidate Maduro, or will it provoke a dangerous confrontation? As the U.S. naval armada looms just off the coast of Venezuela, the question remains, how will Maduro respond? Will he attempt to rally his supporters against this perceived invasion, or will he seek a diplomatic solution? The presence of such a powerful military force could either deter further drug trafficking or ignite a conflict that neither side is prepared for. The clock is ticking, and the world is watching. What will happen next? In a shocking turn of events, President Trump has taken a bold step against the drug cartels plaguing the United States. Reports reveal that he has signed a directive authorizing military action against these South American traffickers. This marks a significant escalation in the ongoing battle against the flow of illegal substances that have devastated communities across the nation. The stakes have never been higher, and the U.S. is prepared to unleash its formidable military might to confront this crisis head-on. As the U.S. military gears up for action, plans are being drawn to target drug smugglers both at sea and on land. The urgency is palpable. The American public is fed up with the relentless tide of drugs infiltrating their borders. The reward for the capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro has skyrocketed, reflecting the administration's determination to dismantle the networks fueling this epidemic. But what does this mean for the future of U.S.-Venezuela relations? In response to the looming threat, Maduro has mobilized millions of militia members, declaring a state of readiness. This week, I will activate a special plan to ensure coverage with more than 4.5 million militiamen, he announced defiantly. His rhetoric is filled with bravado, claiming that no empire is going to touch the sacred ground of Venezuela. But can a nation with a military so vastly outmatched truly stand against the might of the U.S. Navy? The U.S. Navy's flotilla, a powerful armada, is now positioned off the coast of Venezuela, ready to act. With advanced destroyers and a contingent of thousands of Marines. The message is clear, America is serious about stopping the drug trade. The sound of engines roaring and the sight of warships slicing through the waves serve as a stark reminder of the impending confrontation. Will Maduro's bravado hold up against such overwhelming force, or is this the beginning of a new chapter in the fight against drug trafficking? As tensions escalate, the world watches closely. The U.S. is not just flexing its military muscles, it is sending a clear signal to all involved in the drug trade. The question remains, how far is the Trump administration willing to go to achieve its goals? With military options on the table, the potential for conflict looms large. Will the U.S. take decisive action, or will diplomatic efforts prevail? The clock is ticking, and the stakes have never been higher. The stakes have never been higher. The U.S. government has escalated its campaign against Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan leader accused of orchestrating a drug trafficking empire. The reward for his capture has skyrocketed to an astonishing $50 million, a figure that echoes the urgency of the situation. Attorney General Pam Bondi has made it clear, under President Trump's leadership, justice will be served. But what does this mean for the future of Venezuela and its people? As the U.S. tightens its grip, over 7 million tons of cocaine linked to Maduro have been seized, and assets worth more than $700 million have been confiscated. The international community is not silent either. Countries across Latin America, along with the European Union and Canada, have denounced Maduro's regime, labeling his elections as fraudulent. The Organization of American States has gone further, alleging crimes against humanity under his rule. Now, the U.S. is not just talking tough, it's taking action. A formidable flotilla of warships is en route to the Venezuelan coast, signaling a new chapter in this high-stakes drama. This naval armada includes 3 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers, known for their unmatched versatility and firepower. These ships are not just vessels, they are the backbone of the U.S. Navy, equipped with advanced technology that can track hundreds of targets simultaneously. But what happens next? Will the mere presence of these warships be enough to intimidate Maduro? Or will it provoke a dangerous confrontation? The tension is palpable. And the world is watching. The U.S. has options. It could maintain a show of force, conduct aerial patrols, or even launch targeted strikes against drug trafficking operations. Imagine the sound of engines roaring as the destroyers approach, the salty air thick with anticipation. The stakes are high, and the consequences could be dire. Will Maduro back down, or will this lead to an explosive confrontation? The clock is ticking, and the world holds its breath. As the flotilla draws closer, the question looms larger: how far is the U.S. willing to go to dismantle Maduro's regime? The answer could reshape the geopolitical landscape of Latin America. The tension is thick, and the next move could change everything. Will the U.S. unleash its military might, or will diplomacy prevail? The stage is set for a showdown that could redefine the future of a nation. Tensions between the United States and Venezuela have reached a boiling point. President Trump has dispatched a formidable military strike force to the South American nation, signaling a dramatic escalation in the ongoing battle against drug trafficking. The stakes are high, as the U.S. aims to dismantle the cartels that have plagued its streets with illegal substances like fentanyl and cocaine. But what does this mean for Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, who has long been a target of U.S. ire? Flashback to 2020, Maduro and his allies were indicted in a New York federal court for narcoterrorism. The air was thick with accusations, and the U.S. government offered a staggering $15 million reward for information leading to Maduro's capture. Fast forward to today, and that reward has skyrocketed to $50 million, a clear indication of the U.S. commitment to bringing him to justice. As Attorney General Pam Bondi declared, Maduro will not escape justice. But will he? As the U.S. military armada approaches, the Venezuelan regime is on edge. The flotilla, comprising 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers and an attack submarine, is not just a show of force, it's a message. These ships, equipped with advanced Aegis combat systems, are capable of tracking hundreds of targets simultaneously. The sound of their engines reverberates through the waters, a chilling reminder of the power that lies just off Venezuela's coast. But what if the U.S. decides to take more aggressive action? The presence of 4,000 Marines and sailors, along with P-8 spy planes, raises the stakes even higher. Could the U.S. conduct aerial patrols to monitor Venezuelan military movements? Or might they launch strikes against drug trafficking operations? The possibilities are endless, and the tension is palpable. Meanwhile, Maduro's allies are growing increasingly nervous. Despite China's economic support, there's no guarantee that Beijing would intervene militarily if the U.S. escalates its actions. Analysts suggest that Maduro has isolated himself, even from potential allies. As the warships draw closer, the question looms: how long can he maintain his grip on power? Amidst this turmoil, many Venezuelans are quietly hopeful. The arrival of the American flotilla has sparked a sense of optimism among those suffering under Maduro's regime. Jorge Galicia, a Venezuelan exile, expressed the sentiment of many: we see this as a chance for change. But will this hope translate into action, or will it be crushed under the weight of Maduro's desperation? As the U.S. military prepares for its next move, the world watches closely. What will happen next? Will the flotilla serve as a deterrent, or will it ignite a conflict that could reshape the region? The answers remain uncertain, but one thing is clear: the stakes have never been higher. As tensions escalate, the U.S. has decided it's had enough of Venezuela. With President Donald Trump sending an impressive military strike force to South America, the stakes have never been higher. This bold move aims to disrupt the deadly flow of drugs, including the notorious fentanyl and cocaine, wreaking havoc on American society. But why now? What has prompted this decisive action? While the American military builds its presence, Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro's regime finds itself under unprecedented pressure. For years, Maduro has been labeled a dictator. In 2020, he and several allies were indicted in a New York court for severe crimes against humanity and drug trafficking. Those within the U.S. government, such as Attorney General Pam Bondi, have made it clear Maduro is no legitimate leader but a fugitive head of a narco-terror cartel. The U.S. is determined to hold him accountable for crimes that have devastated countless American lives. Did you know that the U.S. has even issued a staggering $50 million reward for information leading to Maduro's capture? This dramatic figure reflects the administration's commitment to dismantling the drug cartels operating from Venezuelan soil. But the question looms, will this be enough to topple a regime entrenched in corruption and violence? As the warships approach, whispers of hope resonate among the Venezuelan population. Exiles like Jorge Galicia express cautious optimism, suggesting many in Venezuela secretly support U.S. intervention. Their voices may be silenced by the oppressive regime, but the hope for freedom burns bright. Could this be a turning point? As the U.S. showcases its military might, Maduro and his cronies are on edge. What might they do in retaliation? The flotilla, consisting of powerful Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, stands ready to strike. These ships are not just a show of force, they're equipped with advanced weaponry capable of executing a range of military operations. American forces are not just offering a presence, they're gearing up for an active campaign against drug trafficking. But will it stop there? Some analysts speculate the U.S. might intensify its efforts, possibly launching operations within Venezuelan borders to apprehend traffickers. Imagine the chaos as American forces confront drug cartels directly. Would this lead to all-out conflict? As pressure mounts, the situation remains unpredictable. Will the U.S. strategically utilize its naval force to monitor and deter drug smuggling activities? Or could we witness an escalated military operation that risks igniting broader conflict in the region? The U.S. has laid down the gauntlet. The implications of these military maneuvers could reverberate through the Caribbean and beyond. With Maduro's regime teetering on the brink, the next steps taken by the American military may very well determine the future of Venezuela and the flow of drugs into the United States. The world watches, breath held, as the story unfolds. What lies ahead could change everything. Tensions between the United States and Venezuela have reached a breaking point. As President Trump sends powerful naval forces to the South American nation, the stakes have never been higher. But why is the U.S. so determined to intervene? It's a battle that goes beyond politics, it's a war against rampant drug trafficking and crime, targeting the very heart of Venezuelan leadership, Nicolas Maduro. Maduro's government faces unprecedented scrutiny. Back in 2020, a federal court in New York indicted Maduro and his allies on serious charges, including narco-terrorism. The courtroom echoed with accusations of a regime steeped in corruption and criminal conspiracy, with the former Attorney General stating that Maduro's collusion has led to a staggering influx of cocaine into American communities. Do you feel the urgency building? The U.S. is ready to act, to dismantle the trafficking network that has ensnared societies. As pressure mounts, the U.S. has raised the bounty on Maduro's head a shocking $50 million, a figure that rivals those set for notorious criminals like Osama bin Laden. Attorney General Pam Bondi made it clear, justice is inevitable. But what does this mean for the future of Venezuela? And how will Maduro retaliate? Maduro has been vocal, dismissing U.S. claims as empty threats while desperately turning to China for support. Amidst the backdrop of looming warships, he flaunted a Huawei phone in a recent speech, a blatant image of reliance on Beijing. But will this alliance be enough to deter the American flotilla approaching? As tensions escalate, Maduro's words ring hollow. The looming threat of American naval power casts a dark shadow over Venezuela's fate, a fate he cannot control alone. With 3 powerful Arleigh Burke-class destroyers on standby and a cadre of Marines ready for action, the U.S. military's capabilities are undeniable. Can Venezuela withstand this show of force? The very presence of these ships just off their coast could terrify Maduro's government into submission. Imagine the sound of engines roaring and the sight of warships. What would it feel like to know that you were at the mercy of such overwhelming firepower? Analysts suggest that the U.S. may employ strategic surveillance and air patrols, tightening the noose around drug smugglers. Will the mere sight of American forces alone be enough to disrupt the entrenched cartels? Washington may initiate operations that could reshape the very fabric of Venezuelan drug trafficking. The tension is palpable and imminent confrontation is on the horizon. Or, considering a more aggressive route, will America initiate strikes against known smuggling hotspots? The power to act decisively rests with them, and the possibility of invoking ground troops looms ever closer. This is not merely a show of strength, it is a declaration that the U.S. intends to eradicate the scourge of drug trafficking from its borders. As this game of geopolitical chess unfolds, the blind confidence of Maduro may soon face a reckoning. Will he stand firm against the tide of American resolve? The air is thick with suspense, and as each day passes, both nations brace themselves for what could be a collision of titanic proportions. How will Venezuela respond when the world watches, waiting for a spark to ignite this explosive situation? The next moves could define the future of both nations. The escalating tensions between the United States and Venezuela have reached a boiling point. The White House spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, underscores the urgency. President Trump is prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and bring those responsible to justice. The U.S. military's increased presence in the Caribbean pushes the stakes even higher. But what happens next? The U.S. is flexing its military muscles with a formidable flotilla poised near Venezuela's coast. This deployment isn't just a show of force, it serves as a warning to Maduro's regime, which many claim operates like a narco-terror cartel. Will Maduro back down, or will he remain defiant? The very presence of U.S. destroyers can instill fear into the hearts of Venezuela's leadership, pressuring them to act against the drug flow threatening American communities. Meanwhile, U.S. assets could take control of the Caribbean waters, conducting aerial and naval patrols to complicate drug smuggling operations. Could this be a turning point for counter-narcotics efforts in not just Venezuela but the entire region? The skies may soon buzz with P-8 reconnaissance planes and combat-ready drones, gathering intelligence while making it exceedingly difficult for traffickers to maneuver. As the military strategy ramps up, Washington might opt for even bolder maneuvers. Imagine U.S. forces intercepting smugglers at sea. Could this signal a shift in the battle against the cartels? The mere thought sends shockwaves through Maduro's regime. The specter of armed maritime interdiction operations looms large. Traffickers could be captured red-handed, while the United States sends a clear message: no more tolerance for drug trafficking. Yet, the conflict is rife with unpredictability. Will the U.S. impose a naval blockade, further tightening the noose around Maduro? The consequences of such an action could ignite major geopolitical flames, raising questions about international law and the balance of power in the region. As Trump has asserted, this is about more than drug trafficking, it's about national security and accountability. With pressure mounting, the U.S. has the upper hand, but will it choose to escalate the situation further? Each decision made could tip the balance, leading to unexpected ramifications. Will Maduro continue to lead from a position of defiance, or will he be forced to reckon with the overwhelming might of the U.S. military bearing down on his regime? The coming weeks may reveal the answers, but one thing remains certain: the world is watching closely, and the stakes have never been higher. In this gripping tension between two nations, the United States stands poised, a giant ready to unleash its might against a smaller opponent. The narrative unfolds, as President Trump takes a definitive stance against Venezuela. His military deployment sends shockwaves through the region. The stakes? An all-out confrontation with Nicolas Maduro, a leader burdened with accusations of narco-terrorism and corruption. With allegations spanning years and intertwining criminality, how long can Maduro withstand the relentless pressure, as warships loom ever closer? The U.S. military, often dubbed the world's strongest, wields unmatched technology, from advanced tanks to stealth bombers. It's a true powerhouse that dwarfs Venezuela, ranked far behind in military capability. In recent conflicts, it has become painfully clear that no matter how brave the rhetoric from Caracas, the reach of U.S. firepower is staggering. What if a single strike could change the course of history? The sound of jets roaring overhead grows louder, a reminder that the battlefield might not just be in the minds of leaders but also in the skies above them. As Maduro attempts to rally support, claiming millions are ready to defend the homeland, expert estimates tell a different story. How credible are these claims when reports suggest a mere fraction of that number stands ready to fight? The desperate recruitment efforts in Caracas, with elderly volunteers receiving rudimentary training, paint a haunting picture. Are these individuals truly prepared to confront a formidable foe? Or are they merely pawns in a game played by leaders far removed from the battlefield? Current reports indicate that 4,000 Marines and sophisticated surveillance assets are en route, a not-so-subtle warning to the Maduro regime. The thought of aerial patrols patrolling the Caribbean sends chills. Who holds the upper hand as these massive destroyers, packed with firepower, wait in the wings? Even the most cautious tactics may serve as a harbinger of change. Fear has a way of manipulating choices. Will Maduro bend to international pressure or continue to defy it, drawing the U.S. deeper into a conflict spiraling out of control? The U.S. response could range from intimidation to outright military action. The possibilities are as vast as the sea separating the nations. Imagine the consequences of an aerial blockade. What would that spell for Venezuela's already beleaguered economy? As the destroyers patrol, the tension escalates. What intricate strategies lie behind closed doors in the White House, eager to be unleashed on unsuspecting shores? Whether navigating the waters of diplomacy or preparing for military engagement, the U.S. seems to believe that its muscle will break the will of Venezuela's leadership. Are these titanic efforts to thwart drug trafficking merely a cover for a deeper agenda targeting Maduro himself? As allies look on, the intricate web of power continues to intertwine, revealing just how fragile peace can be. Will Venezuela display a resilience that alters the narrative, or will it succumb to the enormous challenges ahead? Tensions have escalated dramatically between the U.S. and Venezuela, with President Donald Trump unleashing a formidable military strike force towards South America. The stakes have never been higher. This isn't just a showdown, it's a battle against the tide of illegal drugs flooding into the U.S. Can Trump truly disrupt the sinister cartel networks? As warships and military assets converge on Venezuelan waters, questions loom large. What awaits these two countries at this critical juncture? Flashback to 2020, Maduro stands defiant. The echoes of a courtroom ring in the air, as the U.S. indicts him for narcoterrorism, painting a picture of a regime steeped in corruption. The smell of betrayal lingers, as the Attorney General speaks of a conspiracy festering for over 2 decades, with cocaine poisoning American communities. An alarming $25 million bounty is unveiled, a sum that mirrors the hunt for America's most notorious enemies. How did it come to this? Now, as the Caribbean waters churn with anticipation, the U.S. has dispatched 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, along with covert submarines. Each would cut through waves like a knife, their reputation for air and surface warfare unmatched. Could this naval armada change the tide of the drug war? Under the radar, intelligence missions are preparing to track and intercept smugglers. Their paths are known, their ships are vulnerable, but what could be the repercussions? Reports suggest that 4,000 Marines may soon dive into action, conducting patrols that could choke the illicit trade. Imagine the tension in the air. The engines of military aircraft humming ominously over the waters of risk and uncertainty. Will the mere presence of this naval force send shockwaves through the ranks of Maduro's regime? The U.S. may merely wait, or strike decisively. Hypothetical scenarios brew. Could the U.S. escalate to missile strikes within Venezuelan territory to obliterate smuggling operations? With the Trump administration hinting at a ruthless approach, the specter of armed forces on solid ground looms. Are they prepared for the chaos that might follow? The notion of confronting cartel leaders directly, almost within reach, ignites a flurry of reactions. As military directives weave tighter, U.S. officials make it clear, all options are on the table. This isn't just a mission to stop drug trafficking, it's a declaration of intent to dismantle what they consider a narco-terrorist regime. Will this gambit turn the tide, or ignite a storm of unforeseen consequences? The clock is ticking, and tensions rise further as both nations brace for an outcome that could change the course of their histories forever. Is it the dawn of a new conflict? Tensions between the United States and Venezuela have reached a boiling point, igniting fears of military action. President Donald Trump has deployed a formidable naval strike force toward South America, announcing a bold initiative against the flow of illegal drugs like fentanyl and cocaine. This move aims to dismantle the notorious cartels behind the devastation. But what does this mean for Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro? Their tumultuous history sparks speculation. Could this be the beginning of the end for his regime? As we peel back the layers of this complex showdown, we find a history steeped in animosity. The roots of this conflict stretch back to Trump's first term. In 2020, a New York court indicted Maduro and his associates for horrendous charges, narco-terrorism and conspiracy to import cocaine into the U.S. Imagine, for over 2 decades, allegations swirl around high-ranking officials conspiring with the FARC. The U.S. does not sit idly by. Attorney General Bill Barr's scathing remarks highlight a regime riddled with corruption, prompting a ruthless crackdown aimed at stripping Maduro's network of its financial power. But the stakes only get higher. The U.S. initially offered a staggering $15 million reward for leads on Maduro's arrest, later ballooning to $50 million, an amount that echoes historical offers made for the capture of global terrorists. Attorney General Pam Bondi's statement echoes with determination: justice must prevail. The seizure of over $700 million tied to Maduro paints a gripping picture of a regime clinging to its illicit gains. Yet support for Maduro is crumbling, with Latin American nations refusing to acknowledge him as president, deeming his elections illegitimate. Human rights violations loom large, drawing condemnation from various international bodies. Now, with a naval flotilla in play, the waters around Venezuela are turbulent. Comprised of 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers and a submarine, the U.S. military presence is nothing short of imposing. These warships symbolize a readiness to employ overwhelming force. Their cutting-edge technology can target threats with precision, redefining military engagement in this region. As the sounds of engines roar and the ships navigate the waves, a palpable sense of foreboding hangs in the air. Will this show of might back Maduro into a corner, or provoke a wider confrontation? The presence of around 4,000 Marines and sailors suggests that this force is not merely a display, it signals intent. Media reports reveal that this significant deployment indicates months of sustained operations aimed at drug trafficking. U.S. officials hint at a broad strategy, patrolling the Caribbean to monitor movements and thwart trafficking. What might happen next? The U.S. has a range of tactics at its disposal, from a mere show of force to more aggressive interception operations. The Caribbean Sea becomes a chessboard, where every move matters. Amid mounting pressure, the U.S. could choose restraint or escalate its tactics with maritime interdictions that capture smugglers in the act. The thrill of potential military engagement looms as collective breaths are held across the region. Military officials suggest that a blockade is unlikely, but tightening the noose could alter the dynamics. However, with the firepower on hand, the possibility of direct strikes on cartel bases or even ground operations would raise the stakes dramatically. Each strategic choice echoes back to the core question: will this military deployment lead to justice or just further chaos? The world watches, holding its breath, as the U.S. prepares to act. What will unfold at the gates of Venezuela? The clock is ticking. Tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela have reached a boiling point. President Trump,